Hi, I'm Dr. Jeff Nickel, along with my girl dog, my sidekick, Miss America here. And we're talking about holiday disasters and near misses. We have New Year's Eve right around the corner, and there's still a lot of great snacks and a lot of people and visitors and guests and opportunities for things to go wrong. And just in case we haven't met, I'm a veterinarian. I'm residency trained in the specialty of veterinary behavior medicine with a whole lot of experience in all manner of general medicine with illnesses and injuries, including poisonings. And so what I'm going to do is try to bring together the behavioral and the medical side of these things so you can avoid problems. But if you find one of your pets getting into trouble, you need to know what to do right away. So I'd like to start with a story of a German Shepherd. This little guy was about 2 years old. I say little because he's smaller than I am, but about 85 pounds. And I'm going to change his name because, well, he has a right to his privacy. So we'll call him Murphy in commemoration of Murphy's Law, which, of course, anything that can go wrong will. And if you have pets and you have snacks and things that are different in your household around the time of the holidays, then there's plenty of opportunity, especially if you have a dog who gets into what we call self-rewarding behaviors. In other words, if they find food on the counter, then that's why they rob the bank, because that's where the money is. And so if there is something like chocolate, that's a real potential problem. Milk chocolate, not as bad as dark baker's chocolate, but either one can cause real trouble because there's a compound in there, belongs to the methylxanthine family, same family where caffeine belongs. And you and I, we can eat chocolate and drink coffee, but our dogs, that can cause real trouble, like liver disease and seizures. So here I am at my veterinary hospital several years back, and we were already working a couple of emergencies, but they were getting under control. And one of my staff at the front desk came to me and said, Dr. Nickel, there's a person on the phone who said that looks like their dog just got into a whole bunch of chocolate, and should they be concerned? And my answer was, they need to get here with that dog ASAP. And the good news was that they called ahead, because that gave us the opportunity to get those other two cases under control and fully stable so we could triage this thing. Well, when they called, their dog wasn't showing any symptoms, but by the time they arrived about 20 minutes later, that dog was already starting to tremble. This was a seizure, a pre-seizuring kind of a situation, a little bit of a jerkiness to this dog's movement. So the first thing that we did was put an IV catheter and gave that dog an IM injection of a drug called apomorphine. It's related to morphine, but it causes vomiting quite reliably in dogs about 10 minutes, 15 minutes after it's given. We needed to get that chocolate out of the dog's stomach to avoid absorbing any more of it. And so with the help of some IV Valium to diminish the seizuring, we had a good sedated dog. We passed a stomach tube, and of course, out came all that chocolate. The dog vomited and brought up a lot more of it for us. I remember it to this day. It kind of stood up in this thick puddle, a lot like roofing tar. And the thought raced through my mind very quickly that, got a couple of cracks in the parking lot we could patch. But anyway, we got on with the job, and we gave that dog, once we irrigated that stomach with lots of water, and we tubed in some activated charcoal to break down any additional toxins so that they wouldn't absorb. And we kept that dog on IV fluid support. And we submitted a lab profile to our in-house lab to make sure that there wasn't already liver damage occurring. And we followed it up a week later. That dog did very well, by the way. Murphy, he did fine. We kept him for several hours, overnight in fact, and then sent him home the next day. And he did well. But we rechecked his lab profile a week later and about a month later as well, because we just wanted to be sure that if there was some kind of a liver problem that resulted from this chocolate ingestion, that we weren't blindsided by it later. But the good news was that he didn't show any trouble at all. So we ended up doing fine with that guy. But there was a lot of emotional angst on the part of the family. When those folks came in, they had two small children. They loved that dog, and they were really worried about him. And, well, they should have been. And I cautioned their folks, don't scold anybody in the family because chocolate was left out. Everybody's human. Children make more mistakes than adults. At least it's supposed to work that way. And we knew that they were going to learn from this thing, and there was no point in anybody giving anyone else a bad time about it. The good news is that they did the right thing by calling and by asking. And of course the answer was yes, absolutely. We treat those things ASAP. And so going forward on this thing at the holidays, I mean, you could have chocolate anytime. There's a lot of chocolate Santas and stuff like that around this time of year. But there's also a lot of baked stuff. There are a lot of cookies, for example, with macadamia nuts. And macadamia nuts can be a very big problem. Those can cause a lethargy, a mental dullness, and a fever in as short a time as 3 hours. Sometimes it takes 24 hours. But the macadamia nuts need to be, we need to get those out of the stomach. And so we induce vomiting in those dogs too, and we treat them with fluid support. And so we're going to make sure that that's not a problem. Macadamia nuts don't usually kill dogs, but they can make them really, really sick, and oftentimes they'll vomit on their own with that as well. A lot of dogs get into peanut butter around the holidays. Nothing wrong with that, unless it has xylitol. Xylitol is a sugar substitute that we're seeing in a growing list of prepared foods nowadays. And the reason is that diabetics, human diabetics, can eat foods with xylitol and do very well. In fact, it's actually helpful for humans. But for dogs, it can cause liver disease, and it can drive down the blood sugar, and we can get seizures because of that. And so we absolutely must read the labels of any human food that a dog gets and make sure xylitol is not in there. But, let's face it, human foods and dogs probably shouldn't be doing it. A food toy like a Kong, for example, putting peanut butter in it, can be a great way to keep a dog occupied doing something that's a lot like its natural, innate foraging behaviors. So if you're having a lot of guests and you put your dog in another room so that the dog doesn't steal or doesn't get freaked out by unfamiliar people, a peanut butter and a Kong, it's a good way to go. Now, of course, you can put canned dog food in those things too. And there are other food toys like the Twist and Treat, and they're pretty handy if you need the dog to be occupied for a longer period. If you put the canned food, for example, in the food toy and freeze it overnight in like a Ziploc, for example, and then take it out just before you give it to the dog. Take it out of the bag, put the dog in the other room, and if the dog has not been fed that day and they're food motivated, they will go ahead and work that food loose and stay occupied and stay out of trouble. So avoidance really matters. People tend to say, well, gee, my dog tends to steal, so I'm going to be watching him carefully and I'm going to scold him when he does. But the trouble with that is the dogs believe that any response from their leader is an earned reinforcer. So reprimanding your dog when they do the wrong thing actually encourages more of the same behavior. And beyond that, of course, we don't ever reprimand it by saying, now, Murphy, I'd prefer you not steal from the counter. Of course, you raise your voice. Well, that ratchets the dog's agitation even higher, and it can damage the bond. And of course, they don't learn anything. So avoidance is really best, and give the dog a treat that it can work loose from this food toy, something pretty challenging, and that'll help a great deal. So the other big poisons to be concerned with, and of course there's a list of them, but the common ones, in addition to chocolate and macadamia nuts, are grapes and raisins. And those things can cause acute kidney failure in some dogs. In other words, it can happen in a matter of hours, and it can be life-threatening. Interestingly, some dogs don't have any trouble at all with grapes or raisins. So how can you know if your dog is one of the safe ones? How about don't gamble at all? Don't give any dog grapes or raisins, because why would you chance it? But they can be, frankly, quite dangerous. And around Christmas time, and Christmas is past us now, but we've still got our Christmas tree up. Is these salt dough ornaments? You mix this stuff together. You can find recipes for it on the internet. A lot of people make these dough ornaments, and they paint them, and they varnish them or paint them with polyurethane, and they're beautiful. But you have to bake them, and the stuff is a lot like Play-Doh, and it's got flour in it, and it has salt, and that salt is a huge problem for some dogs because they will steal these from the Christmas tree, and they will have a salt diuresis, is what it's called, inside the stomach. And they can not only get sick, but they can develop a severe electrolyte imbalance and vomit and become dehydrated, and you don't want to get down that path. So if you're going to use those salt dough ornaments, hang them high on the Christmas tree, not where your pets can get them. Just be very, very careful of those things. And of course, there are ornamental plants around the holidays. You know, a big one is like poinsettias. We still have ours. It's sort of struggling with life right now, but you know, it probably needs to go to the plant emergency clinic. Anyway, dogs will eat those things, and cats will too. And many people are aware of that, and they're very worried about it. There's a pitch in the sap of these things that is a stomach and intestinal irritant, and it will cause vomiting, and they'll feel pretty lousy. But we don't ever see any dogs die from eating poinsettia leaves. That just isn't a problem. But gee, who wants a miserable sick pet? Well, we don't, and so I would suggest that you know, if you're going to dog who has a history of eating plants, keep those up on a shelf. You know, they look better than, you know, don't get the tall ones that sit on the floor. If you've got that risk, I mean, who needs it? But it isn't a potential fatal poisoning. Another common one is mistletoe. And of course, most people hang that so you can stand under it and get lucky, I suppose, get kissed. But dogs who eat those, and they will, those things also contain a stomach and intestinal irritant. And the big thing that worries many people is the potential for cardiac toxicity. In other words, there's a substance in the mistletoe berries that, if there's enough of it ingested, they can develop heart problems from it. Well, it turns out that a dog would have to eat, you know, like a bushel of it in order to poison their heart. And so, in a practical sense, we don't worry too much about that. And so poinsettias, mistletoe, nobody wants a sick dog. But neither of those is life-threatening. And so rather than worry about, you know, busting a dog in the act, and, you know, that's the way we humans tend to think sometimes about this stuff, and we need to make a shift in that. Reprimands, forget that nonsense. And, you know, again, if your dog is not in the other room enjoying a food toy during the time when you have company, but you're worried that he or she might get into a toxic plant or some kind of human food that could be a risk, I suggest leaving a leash attached to the dog's collar that she can drag around the house. And if you get worried, rather than saying anything, which again is counterproductive, step on the drag line, that's the leash that the dog's dragging from her collar, and pick it up and simply lead the dog to another room. An even better way of going about it is that leash, that drag line that the dog could otherwise drag around on the floor. You can use one of these little carabiners that a lot of us have. Some people use them to hang keys from their belt, that kind of stuff. And you can clip the handle of the leash into the carabiner on your belt, and you've got your dog tethered to you. So again, if you have guests or a lot of other things going on, and you don't want your dog wandering off and getting into trouble, well, she goes with you any place you go, and you're under control of this thing. And you can use much longer than a 6-foot leash, 8 or 10 feet, whatever seems to work. But it's avoidance of the problem, and that's really paramount to this whole thing. You know, just don't get into trouble with it. And then, if your dog does do the wrong thing, and you lead her away from the bad behavior, you can have a little treat in your treat bag and reinforce her for not stealing stuff. Or if she has maybe lunged or growled at a guest because she's freaked out, and you've been smart enough to have her tethered to your belt, you create distance, and then when a quick glance shows that she's calmer, then you reinforce very quietly, and a treat from your treat bag can be a good thing. But if you have a dog who might react to visitors, again, rather than believing that you should repeatedly expose your dog to things that scare the daylights out of him, avoid the whole thing. Put him in the other room with a food toy and set him up for success instead of failure. And so the other thing that, with New Year's Eve coming up, in many neighborhoods there are fireworks, and some dogs don't have a problem with it, but, you know, they don't get it. You know, they think maybe it's a bombing raid. And, boy, they can tremble, and they can hypersalivate and just be miserable. And so let's set them up for success. And a smart way of going about that is to find a room that, maybe a closet that does not have an exterior wall, and draw the shades, Of course, it's probably night anyway, but you don't want your dog getting freaked out by those sudden bursts of light in the sky and all that noise. So draw the shades and put on some classical music, pretty loud, not only to help drown out the sound, but research has shown that classical music has a calming effect on dogs. There are some dogs who like other types of music, but the majority of them are calmed by classical music, not, the Beethoven stuff with a lot of banging, but something much quieter. But you don't want rap music. A lot of them don't like that. It makes them worse. Again, this has all been studied. Rock and roll sometimes doesn't have a calming effect, but classical music, the calming stuff, fairly loud, actually does. And many dogs will work on a food toy and be distracted by that. Something else that your veterinarian can supply to you is I'm going to show this to you on the other side. There you go. And this is a gel. I'm going to show it to you. This is what the box looks like. And you put it between the gum and the lower lip. That's what that looks like. So let me turn the camera around. There it is. And you can see it right here. And this stuff comes in this syringe, and you pop off the little cap, and you deposit a little dab of this between the dog's gum and lower lip. And you measure it carefully, and your veterinarian will tell you how much. It's got these little dots on the plunger of the syringe, and then you adjust it using this little wheel. But what's so handy about it, none of them seem to be bothered by the taste. And you put a little dab of this stuff between their lower lip and their gum, and in about 20 minutes, they're calmer. It has a wonderful, reliable anti-anxiety effect. It is approved specifically for noise phobias, like fireworks on New Year's Eve. And we never see any sedation from it. We understand how it works neurochemically very, very clearly, and it does not have a sedative effect at the proper dose. And so we found it to be very helpful for many of these dogs. And like most of these things that are intended for treating anxiety and fear reactions, they're best given preemptively. But if you think, oh, gee, we got it, but we forgot to give it, or gee, the fireworks have started earlier than we anticipated, you can give it when the dog's already frightened, and it will help. But best in advance. So I hope this has been helpful to you. And, if you like any of this information, you can make a comment on my Facebook page. I'll put the closed captioning on there so you can, kind of listen by reading it in case you're supposed to be paying attention to somebody else. You don't have to play it out loud. And we're going to do this again, another Facebook Live in 2 weeks. It'll be Thursday evening, January the 3rd, at 6 o'clock Mountain Time, which would make it 8 o'clock Eastern. And the subject I'm going to cover that time is jumpy, nippy, mouthy puppies. Some people have gotten puppies for Christmas, but the same principles I'm going to share during that are things you can use on an adult dog as well. And it will not involve punishment and reprimands and all that stuff, which, again, is counterproductive. In other words, it makes the problem worse. We're going to talk about how to do it and build a bond between you and your dog that we all want to nurture with our pets. Dogs are wonderful, and it only should get better, and especially with puppies. You don't want to do anything but teach them that life is safe and excellent with you. So jumpy, nippy, mouthy puppies. And the reason we're skipping next week and doing this Facebook Live in 2 weeks is that next week we're going to be working on a video on the same subject that is going to be part of the ebook that I'm going to develop ultimately. I'm writing chapters in my blog, and if you want to see those chapters in advance and get weekly free access to my videos and my weekly newspaper column that I've been writing in the Albuquerque Journal for many years, you can go to my website and subscribe, and that is drjeffnicol.com, drjeffnicol.com, and there's no charge to subscribe to my website. And so we're going to have those blogs and videos and Facebook Live events on my website, and subscribers will get them every week on Tuesday morning. And if you subscribe, which again is no charge, we'll also send you my free at-home pet first aid and CPR guide. Well, I'm Dr. Jeff Nicol, and I really appreciate you attending and watching this, and I hope it's valuable. And if you have friends whose pets could benefit from this information, I hope you'll share it with them too. And so my sidekick, Miss America, and I wish you a best safe and prosperous 2019.